Awesome. Good morning, you guys. I'm Jill Johnson, agency director here, and I'm super excited to talk to you guys. Jim sent out the accountability sheet, and there was something that was just really kind of pressing that I wanted to actually selfishly do some research on. And so it kind of prompted me to do a little bit more research on this. I was reading the book, The Science of Scaling by Benjamin Hardy. Shout out to Trisha. When Trisha tells you to read a book, you listen to Trisha and you go read it. If you haven't read his stuff before, he's amazing. If you have, you know that anything that he puts out is always like game-changing ideas. Absolutely love him. So I'm not going to talk about the whole book because we have 15 minutes. But what I wanted to do is talk about a concept that really stood out to me and one that kind of hit me hard that I wanted to dig into. And really kind of tying it into how we can use it as agents and possibly new agents. So I think when we start our business, right, you can even throw in the chat, like, did you have a goal here? Right? Did you have maybe an agency owner? Did you have like a top producer goal? Did you have maybe you were a big dreamer and a 130 goal? Maybe you just wanted to write your first app, right? It's all good, right? That's vision. That's raising the lid. Okay, that's really kind of expanding your thoughts. But here's the truth. We don't live at the lid, right? We live at the floor. And so I found a quote that we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our standards. And that's so true. And so when we think about our lid, that's our maximum potential, right? That's the best day. That's when you write 5,000 in one day or 10,000 in one day, or you hit that highest achievement. That's the big vision. Maybe a dream month. Maybe you hit your stretch goal, right? This last month. Good job. The floor is going to be that minimum standard, your worst case performance. It's what you will not allow yourself to go below. Okay. And so the reality check, I think, with all of this is that we don't spend most of our time at the lid, your best month, do we? We actually spend the most of our business and most of our life at the floor, which is what? Your habits and your consistency. So goals are great, right? They're motivational, but they're not the guarantees. They're not what you're guaranteed to do. So when life gets hard, we don't magically like rise to that dream and hit that goal. You're going to fall to your standards, right? And when you fall back to your standards and those habits, what's that really going to do for you? Because if we have really low standards, it's going to make hitting that goal that much harder. So that really means that daily discipline matters way more. What you're doing on a daily basis, what you're sitting in your office doing every day is going to matter way more than the size of that dream, right? So if I had a goal, right, to lose 20 pounds, we'll just say your goal is to lose 20 pounds. That's your goal, right? So your standard might be, I'm not going to skip 2 days in the gym in a row. So you've raised that standard, right? In a tough week, you're not going to magically lose the 20 pounds, right? But you're going to default to that floor, and that floor is strong. So that progress is going to continue. But if the floor is weak, right? If I'm like, I'm fine with missing a whole week in the gym, you crash. Like here's a little example. So like 3 years ago, I did a couple 75 hards back to back. Okay, nothing like Christina Watts. Can't imagine what her floor is going to look like after this. But after doing those back to back, my new floor was that I always do a workout and I always go for a walk. I never miss that. I read my 10 pages. I don't miss that. That's my new floor. Okay, so raising the lid means you're going to dream bigger, right? Maybe you're going to go from 10,000 APV to 20,000 APV, or you're building an agency instead of just being a producer. So if your best month is 20,000, you're going to stretch that lid to 30. If the most you've ever recruited in a month is one agent, you're going to stretch that. You're going to go for 3. Okay, so like the big goals are good. So keep that in mind. They keep you excited. They keep you hungry. So if you guys are really brave, like throw it in the chat, like put your goal in if you guys haven't already, because I kind of want to focus on this. I want to know who I'm talking to today. And you probably already did and I missed the chat, but I really kind of want to talk about, all right, 5K, AO 130, 10,000 month, top producer AO 130. Okay, I know these are my people. I love it. Okay, all right, awesome. Okay, so what it means to raise the floor is you're going to raise your minimum standard. So the floor is essentially the lowest you'll accept yourself, your non-negotiables. So if your floor stays really low, it doesn't matter what your goals are, right? Because you're never going to hit it because you're not rising up to hit it. So if your worst month used to be 3,000, raising the floor means now your worst month is 10,000 because you're just not going to accept less than that, right? If your lowest number of dials in a week is 300, you're going to raise the floor. So now your 300 is too low, right? So your lowest week of dials is going to be like 450 or maybe 500. And then if you do this consistently over time, guess what? You're going to hit those goals that you just put in that chat, right? Because it means your standards are higher. It's truly the consistency is going to beat the intensity, right? So the consistency of doing something over and over is really what's going to yield those results. Like big months are great, right? Well, you all love a big month. But small, consistent months, like when you kind of hear like you think about like the rising of tides. Like I've noticed in our agency, like little by little, it's nothing monumental, but little by little, the APV is growing, right? I'd much rather have that than all of a sudden have like a huge month and then drop down for 4 or 5, right? So the floor, a low floor would be you crush it 1 month and then you crash the next. A high floor would be even on your bad months, you're strong, right? Because you're not dropping below that certain threshold. And really I really feel like it's the habits that carry you when the motivation doesn't, right? When the motivation doesn't work. Because the motivation, we all write that goal and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so motivated to do that. But if you don't have the habits in place, you're not going to hit it. So let's talk about what daily floors can kind of look like for some agents, okay? So daily floors could look like you're not going to quit the day dialing without making 200 to 300 dials. That could be your new floor. Your weekly goal could be you're always going to book 12 to 15 sits per week, absolutely no exception. You're going to protect 2 to 3 families a week. You're going to write 5,000. I mean, that's what corporate suggests, right? Like that leaves clues, right? You're never going to miss a Monday huddle. You're never going to miss a dial session. I'm never going to let my APV drop below 10,000, right? I'm going to recruit at least 1 new agent a month. Here's a good, like investing in leads, right? I'm going to invest in leads consistently. I'm never going to skip a month of investing in leads. I'm going to put my name on the accountability sheet and I'm going to be held accountable, right? How many of you are sitting in here today and you are here and you are a fly on the wall and you don't actually have your name on an accountability sheet anywhere, right? Like raise that floor. So when I first started, I was a big lid chaser. I was like, I want to be agency owner. I want the accolades. I want to see my name on leaderboards. I want the awards. I want the recognition. But the real shift happened for me when I raised the floor. And I decided no matter what, I wouldn't issue less than 15,000 on my own pen. That's truly when that decision changed everything. It brought me consistency, and that consistency, guess what it did? It built me the confidence, and then that confidence, I was able to go out and share this business and bring in even more agents, right? And expand our agency even more. So really raising that lid, it's gonna fuel that dream, right? But raising the floor funds them. Like it actually is where that money is gonna fall into your bank account. That goal, that lid, that's optional, but your floor is always required. Your floor is always gonna be there. So you have to just get really real with it and refuse to go below that threshold. Okay, so I wanna take just a couple minutes. So get out a piece of paper, get out your notes app if you're on your phone and you're on a walk like I normally am, but I want you to write down like a 90-day goal. And I want this to be a little bit scary. I want you to think about, I don't know, maybe that's hitting AO, maybe that's hitting top producer. Maybe that's, I don't know, you don't have to put it in the chat, but I want you to write it down. I'm gonna give you just a second to do that. Okay, so now that you have your big goal, all right, Tesha, I love that. Month 1 of AO. Okay, awesome. So you got 90 days. So you can You can finish that, Tessa, if you want to. Okay, so one of the things that you've got to decide now that you've got this goal is you've got to write down a new non-negotiable standard that you're raising immediately. And I mean like today. All right. So I don't know what that looks like. That could be, I won't book less than 12 sits. I won't finish the week without protecting 2 families. So that means you stay in the office on Friday and Saturday and possibly Sunday to get that done, right? Or I'll never let my APV fall below 10,000. So go ahead and put it down. Like, what's your new floor? All right, elite producer, I see you, Rich. Way to raise the floor for us. All right, so then the third step that I want you guys to do, maybe when you guys go to your breakouts, maybe you have a mentor, AO, but I want you to share this. You got to share this, and you got to share what your 90-day goal is. And then I want you to share what your new standard is, what you refuse to live below. Okay, because that's really the true shift. You know, these big goals, they raise your lid, right? But it's the rising of the floor. That is the secret to mastering this, like production, building confidence, creating the freedom. The day you raise your floor is the day that your business changes. I mean, that's just the reality, right? We don't live at that best month. I wish we did. I wish we did. But you live at the floor. And so the only way to get better is to raise that floor. All right. So kind of one of the things I want you to kind of think about as agents when you're kind of looking at your business and you're truly studying like your business, don't be looking at those top months, right? I want you to look at what you're doing consistently over time, because that's the true like picture of what your business looks like. Because yeah, that 1 month where you knock the cover off the ball, that's great. But the reality is the floor is what pays your bills. It's what builds your confidence, and it's really what funds your dreams. Your standards are what is going to actually define you and your business. The dreams are exciting, and yes, they get us moving. And when you write it down, you're like really, really excited about it. But the day that you stop doing this roller coaster and having those ups and downs is the day that you create that consistency, showing up, being confident in your business because you've risen the standards, right? You've raised the floor of your business. So I just kind of want to leave you guys with like, don't go out and just raise the lid. Yes, I want you to dream bigger, but don't just dream bigger, right? You got to raise your life by actually raising the floor, setting the kind of standards that are going to force you to level up. You have no choice but to level up. If you set a really big goal, you have no choice but to level up, even on your hardest days. Because when that floor rises, everything in your life rises. You're a better parent. You're a better spouse. Your house is cleaner, like literally everything. Your income's going to go up. Your confidence is going to go up. Your freedom of life is going to go up, right? Like the legacy that you're leaving for your family. Okay. So that hit me. I just really wanted to share that because I hadn't really ever thought of it in that, because we always are like, oh, I want to go out and set up these big goals, but then I don't really have anything to back it, right? I'm not really changing anything. And so I really want you to think about the daily habits and that consistency that you can change, right? And so I hope that you guys got something from that. Really seriously, like if you go to your breakouts, maybe share it. But share it with somebody. And then I just want to hear, like, report back to me in like a month of how you've raised the floor and you've raised the standards in your business. So that's what I got, Jim.
Jill, that was freaking fire. And I think through that stuff all the time. In like, I was running a breakout, with Scott Schnitzer at a conference. And we shared our principles, like our 10 non-negotiables. We shared what our floor was. And I've got it here. I'm going to go ahead. I'm just going to share this screen real quick because I want you guys to see literally how I put my floor straight up into writing. So I walked through like, okay, when I was building this business, what were the principles? What was the floor? What were my non-negotiables? And number one, I decided ahead of time when I was working any given week. I was never surprised by my schedule. I was on at least 2 of the team Zoom calls with my camera on, engaging in comments. I was in the Zoom workroom when I was working. I engaged in the GroupMe, Slack, Crew, whatever messaging app, conversation, asking questions, congratulating people. I set activity-based goals instead of results-based goals, so I could guarantee to hit them, especially when I was new establishing my ratios. I refused to draw conclusions from small sample sizes. I had to remind myself often that I can and will win here. There was a lot of evidence telling me that I wasn't going to. I had to be curious and not critical. I had to do it scared. I had to never miss twice. We've talked about a lot of these individually throughout here, but that was like my codified principles. The other thing that I did that helped me so much was I have over here my big whiteboard, and I have numbers 1 through 10, upcoming appointments. I had to always have 10 appointments scheduled on the books upcoming. If I ran one or got ghosted, that erased and I filled that slot. There were always 10. And that did something cool for me in that I always had something to prepare for, look forward to, keep my head in the game, keep hope alive that any one of these was going to be big for me. When my appointment calendar dried up and I had nothing on the books to look forward to, that's a dangerous spot to be. You got nothing to prepare for, nothing to keep you in the game, nothing to hope for. You got to grind and get back in it. So, Joe, such a good reminder. Thank you so much for that. That was huge. It's got me thinking on where my floor needs to elevate to go to the next level, even for myself.
Well,
All
and
right.
as leaders too, we can think about it too. Like maybe some of the standards that we're accepting shouldn't be standards we're accepting as leaders too. And like
Oh,
really,
go. Give us an example of that.
what?
Give us an example of that.
Well, so like for example, 50 calls on an accountability sheet in a day. Is that something we should be okay with? Right? And an agent, they tell us that maybe their goal is, I don't know, 8,000 for the month, but they're holding 4 to 6 appointments. Like we got to raise the floor there, right? We got to raise the standards. We can't just be like, oh, okay, like you'll get it next week, right? Like as a leader, we have to well, we have to strive for more, right? But we also have to help our agents strive to more for more and let them realize that like, hey, it's just a mindset, right? It's just not accepting it, right? It's just not accepting that I'm not going to leave the office on Friday without those appointments scheduled for next week.
Yeah. So freaking good. So good. All right. Stop this recording.